Hey everybody, Rich here, Rich's Custom Marine and Auto. This time we're going to be working on this 2004 Honda Element. This is actually my sister and brother-in-law's rig. So this thing has, not sure if the camera is going to show it, but the lights flicker. We'll see if that shows up on camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some testing of the alternator here and see. We're going to put the oscilloscope on there and see. What I'm suspecting is there's a diode going bad in the alternator, and that's likely causing the problem. The reason I've got it sitting here running right now is I wanted it up to temperature, but there's the alternator down in there, and we just got to get onto that. So let me get the meter set up and let's see what it shows. Alright, let's see what it reads. Alright, let me shut this thing off. Alright, so now on a different vehicle, just for comparison, you can see what we're showing there. Alternator changed out, so first thing I'm going to do, of course, is disconnect the battery. Negative terminal there. I did already go ahead and pull the belt, and that's pretty easy. So right down there, it's 14 millimeters, and then pull the wrench towards the front of the vehicle, and then that'll give you enough slack to get this off the power steering pulley. So I'm going to get that battery disconnected, and then we'll work on getting the power steering pump out of the way because the alternator is underneath of it. Alright, so power steering pump's up out of the way. It has a bolt in the back, and then there's one on the bottom, and then real carefully you can set that up on that plastic cover, and then we've got to get this tensioner off of here. So I've got the one bolt out down there, and then I'm sure there's one back here. I'm gonna have to get my mirror in there and get that thing out of the way, and then we can go ahead and work towards getting the alternator unhooked. Alright, so to get that tensioner out, first it sits down in there like so. Take the bolt out that holds that tensioner pulley on. It makes it a lot easier to get to the back bolt. You might want a mirror to be able to see that. These are all 12 millimeter headed, by the way. So you've got that bolt, and then there's a bolt there, and then there's one right in the center. And the one in the center is significantly longer. So also something to throw in there, guys, is if you haven't replaced your serpentine belt recently, or your tensioner, might be a good time to do it since you're going to have it out anyways. But you can tell by looking at this one, I mean, this has been changed very, very recently. So also the belt's got a little bit of scratching on it, but the serpentine side looks really, really good. So that nut that I just dug out of there actually goes on the back side of where that tensioner pulley goes. So something to keep in mind, that will fall out. So now we're ready to go ahead, and we need to take this line off of here, and then we can start unbolting that alternator. Alright, so I've gotten that line out of the way, and I've broken that loose, but I wanted to show you on the new alternator. So it's got two bolts on the bottom. We're going to have to grab some extensions and go by feel or go by mirror to get those things loose. Those are 12 millimeter headed bolts as well. And then the connection here where the battery wire goes is actually a 10 millimeter nut. Alright, not even going to sugarcoat it, guys. That is a pain. Trying to get to these two bolts in between in between that fan shroud. One of those fins down there by where you see the green connector is very in the way. Just got to get the right amount of extension and all that to get that thing broke loose. So I ended up using just a little bitty extension like that with a shallow socket, because even a deep well with no extension was a little bit on the long side. You will also have to remove this guy, PCV valve. It goes right there, because the alternator won't come out otherwise. You can't tilt it, tip it. I tried, it won't come out. So anyways, that's a bit of a bugger. You just got to get everything just right. Make sure your socket is on there good, because those bolts are pretty freaking tight. So now at this point we're ready. They do look exactly the same. So we'll go ahead and put this new one in. Alright, I got that bugger in there, and those 3 bolts get torqued to 16 foot-pounds. Next thing I'm going to do is I'll put the battery cable wire on there, and that gets torqued to 6 foot-pounds or 72 inch-pounds. And then of course we'll plug in the field connection, and we'll get this guy put back in, PCV valve. I'm going to spray a little brake cleaner through that since it's out, and then we can start getting that tensioner and stuff on. So let me get the wires hooked up, and then we'll just continue on from there. Alright, so got the wires connected and the PCV valve sprayed out, got it put back in there. So let's go ahead and get this tensioner put back on. I got the center bolt started, so I'm going to run it in but not tighten it. That way I can move the body of this tensioner around to be able to get those other bolts. And I'll get this easy one that I can see. And we'll get this one in the back. Alright, now I'll look up the torque spec real quick, and we'll get those tightened down. Okay, so these get torqued to 16 foot-pounds. Okay, we got the tensioner pulley on there now, and at this point we can go ahead and set the power steering pump back in there. Actually, before we do that, we'll put this PCV line on. Alright. Get these bolts in. Alright, so we'll snug these down, and then they also get torqued to 16 foot-pounds. Okay, now we're ready to torque these to 16 foot-pounds. Now we can route our belt underneath the tensioner. You want to make sure, looking down in there, that that belt has stayed on the rest of the pulleys, the crankshaft and stuff. Right, with everything back in there, with the exception of the little plastic cover there, let's start this thing up and see what it does. Well, there we have it. No more flashing battery light. No more engine surge. So that's good to go. We'll go ahead and put that black plastic cover back on there and move on. This is just to show the oscilloscope with the new alternator, and it is way cleaner. You're never going to have a perfect DC with an alternator, but that's way cleaner than it was. So hey guys, thanks for watching. That's all the steps to replace the alternator in the 2004 era Elements. I think 04, 5, and 6 I think are very similar. It's kind of a pain, as you guys saw going through that. Plan on having your hands get a little bit torn up, but it's definitely a doable job, doable in your carport, your garage, in front of your house, whatever. I got the alternator from Rock Auto. That's where I usually get all of my items. And just to share with you guys, it's a Superior 1, and there's the part number that I used. I believe it's 105 amp stock replacement. So anyways, thanks again guys. Please subscribe to help us out, like the video also. Feel free to check out my other videos that I have on the channel. I'm up to 222 I believe at this point, and it's all repair stuff and stuff like that. So there may be something else there that helps you. We've reached the 500 subscriber mark, and we want to continue going up past that. I have activated the super thanks, so if you want to do something to try and help the channel out, you know, help us get tools or work towards a lift or something like that, the super thanks is there. That's just strictly if you choose to do that. But thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments or suggestions or anything like that, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.